So this recent Tucker Carlson and Vladimir Putin interview revealed something that's actually extremely frightening. Putin has openly targeted Canada next, specifically Justin Trudeau, but as collateral, all of Canada, because he's said that he's on a goal to denazify the world. Denazification, it's a real thing that he has used that's translated to the exact same thing from his foreign language to English. And why is Canada a target? Because we literally celebrated a Nazi being in parliament with a standing ovation. It's not a small thing. It's not like a little oopsie. And our prime minister has taken zero accountability. We're going to go over some of the footage. We're going to look at exactly what Putin said and exactly how Justin Trudeau handled the situation. And then I'll leave it up to you to make a decision on whether or not Vladimir Putin will target Canada next, because it's a known fact that Canada has welcomed Nazis since World War II. We've welcomed them safely, and now, for crying out loud, we have awarded them. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Buckle up. This is going to be kind of a scary one. I'm not saying you're going to see Russians paratrooping down going, the Russians are coming. I don't know how what form it's going to look like when Russia inevitably makes a move to denazify Canada, because that's his mission. That's Putin's mission. All of Russia is like, yeah, get rid of the Nazis. They're bad. The world is like, yeah, Nazis are bad, except the ones that we applaud, and the liberals somehow seem to be on board with that. So buckle up, smash the like button, subscribe if you haven't yet already. And I want to mention that there is a 20% off sticker deal for a whole pack of stickers. Link down in the description or the pinned comment below. You've got Klaus Schwab, like the one on my microphone, penetrating Justin Trudeau, Freeland on a broom, Trudeau on a milk carton. I did not see that coming. If you want that sticker, might as well get the whole sticker pack. And speech you hate does not equal hate speech. Like I said, link down in the description, 20% off. Or the pinned comment below. All right, without further ado, let's take a look at this article from 2022. Ukraine's Nazi problem is real, even if Putin's denazification claim isn't. Guys, this is a very powerful individual, okay? He has access to nuclear technology, nuclear weapons, one of the biggest armies in the world. It's a huge, huge deal that he's on a path to denazify the world. He started with Ukraine. Next is probably not Poland. Next is probably Canada, since we freaking glorified a Nazi on the global stage. One of the many distortions manufactured by Russian President Vladimir Putin to justify Russia's assault on Ukraine, perhaps the most bizarre in his claim that the action was taken to denazify the country and its leadership. In making his case for entering his neighbor's territory with armored tanks and fighter jets, Putin has stated that the move was undertaken to protect people who have been subjected to bullying and genocide. And that Russia will strive demilitarization and denazification of Ukraine, but also the world. In this article, they're just focusing on Ukraine. Now let's take a look at the article here, the video here. I did play it in yesterday's video, but I just want to go over exactly what he said. So we're going to watch it again. It's a great interview, just a clip here, and then we're going to get into how Trudeau has handled it, because the way that Justin Trudeau handled it, he never actually denounced the fact that a Nazi came into parliament and that he brought a Nazi in and applauded him. He said, oh, that wasn't good. He never said, we denounce Nazis. We don't stand with Nazis. Canada does not harbor or protect Nazis, and we want no affiliation with Nazis. That's a huge red flag that Justin Trudeau did not say that. And it's reflected not just in Canada, not just with other members of parliament, not just as Canadian citizens, but the rest of the world. More specifically, this badass mother effer who's on a mission to get rid of all the Nazis in the world. And we're like, yeah, we got some here in Canada. We're not sorry. We're not sorry for having them here. That's freaking scary, guys. Really scary.
I say that Ukrainians are part of the one Russian people. They say, no, we are a separate people. Okay, fine. If they consider themselves a separate people, they have the right to do so, but not on the basis of Nazism, the Nazi ideology.
Would you be satisfied with the territory that you have now?
Нет, сейчас закончим. Вы же задали вопрос по неонацизму.
I will finish answering the question. You just asked a question about neo-Nazism and denazification.
Here we go.
Look, The president of Ukraine visited Canada. The story is well known, but being silenced in the Western countries. The Canadian Parliament introduced a man who, as the Speaker of the Parliament said, fought against the Russians during the World War II. Well, who fought against the Russians during the World War II? Hitler and his accomplices. It turned out that this man served in the SS troops. He personally killed Russians, Poles, and Jews. The SS troops consisted of Ukrainian nationalists who did this dirty work. The president of Ukraine stood up with the entire Parliament of Canada and applauded this man. How can this be imagined? The president of Ukraine himself, by the way, is a Jew by nationality.
Really, my question is, what do you do about it? I mean, Hitler's been dead for 80 years. Nazi Germany no longer exists. And so, true. And so, I think what you're saying is you want to extinguish or at least control Ukrainian nationalism. But how? How do you do that?
Вот послушайте меня. Ваш вопрос очень тонкий.
Listen to me. Your question is very subtle, and I can tell you what I think. Do not take offense.
Of course.
Он, казалось бы, тонкий, он очень противный, этот вопрос.
This question appears to be subtle. It is quite pesky.
Значит,
You say Hitler has been dead for so many years, 80 years. But his example lives on. People who exterminated Jews, Russians, and Poles are alive. And the president, the current president of today's Ukraine, applauds him in the Canadian Parliament, gives a standing ovation. Can we say that we have completely uprooted this ideology if what we see is happening today? That is what denazification is in our understanding. We have to get rid of those people who maintain this concept and support this practice and try to preserve it. That is what denazification is. That is what we mean.
Right. Mike.
So that's what's
Hey, what's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another episode with iTrack. Big shout out to all the iTrack fam, man. I appreciate you guys. If this is your first time here, what we like to do is take a look at the most interesting and creepy TikToks and kind of evaluate for ourselves whether these are fact or fiction. If you haven't already, do me a favor and smash that like button for me. Smash that subscribe button, and let's just go ahead and get into it.
The McDonald's Corporation just had an ad come out a few months ago looking into research and development in a technology that will afford them the ability to pump their commercials into your brain while you're sleeping. You think that they figured this out or some other company figured it out first? You think if they're going to have this available to them next year, you think that there weren't agencies that have been wielding this for a decade or so?
Where can I read about this?
It's immediately available on the internet. Imagine if they can do that next year, who's been doing it for the last decade or so? Now, when we look around the world and we see everybody acting the way that they are acting, let's consider that these intrusive thoughts have already been present. These are the weapons of war contemporarily. It's very unfortunate. It used to be that war was a bit more noble when we selected people, we put them in uniforms, we sent them over there to the battlefield, and we said, fight for us. Now, unfortunately, they've circumnavigated the battlefield. Nobody's dressed in uniforms anymore, and the front line is every neighborhood that we're in. It's just that now the average mortgage payer is in the line of fire.
Man, he made a very good point. If they're about to introduce this, that means they've been doing it and they know that it works. So if what he's saying is true, that'd be very creepy.
It just made meat from your number 2. Japanese scientists have developed a method to create edible steaks from human feces. Unbelievable? Well, it's happening. Mitsuyuki Aikida, a researcher at the Okayama laboratory, collaborated with Tokyo Sewage to address sewage mud excess. They discovered the content in the mud contains high protein due to bacteria. So, the team isolated and combined these proteins with a reaction enhancer. Result? Synthetic steak. The meat comprises of 63% protein, 25% carbs, 3% lipids, and 9% minerals. And it's visually enhanced with food coloring for a red hue and improved flavor using soy protein.
No. Just no. I'm good. Let me know in the comments if that's something you'd be down for. But for me, no.
The FBI just purchased 5,000 license for this program called Babel X. Babel X is like, I don't know if you guys remember, I talked about last October, this program called Fog Data Reveal Service. It's basically the same thing. All your social media, your social security numbers, your personal records is in this database. You guys look it up. It's from Babel Street. It's called Babel X. And the FBI just bought 5,000 licenses to use this platform to gather information on random citizens whenever they want. And they can do it without a warrant. And imagine if Babel X, all the data in there was connected to this blockchain address, which is 100% identified to you because it's your literal DNA footprint. And so that's what I was thinking. In the future, all this gathering of DNA may be just a way to permanently identify you, because they can sequence that into a blockchain. And then once we all are on this federal blockchain, our addresses are literally going to be our DNA sequence.
Elon Musk has just implanted his Neuralink brain chip in a human being, but the darker agenda behind this will give you chills. Elon Musk first broke the news on his Twitter account, stating that the first human being had received their brain implant and is recovering well. However, many people felt uneasy about this announcement, citing fears that this technology could be used for diabolical reasons. While Musk has often tried to portray this as a positive advancement towards society, the real motivation behind this is utterly satanic. This is called transhumanism, which is the belief or theory that the human race can evolve beyond its current physical and mental limitations, especially by means of science and technology. The Luciferian elite have long awaited for this moment, because the ulterior sinister motive with merging man with machine is the final act of rebellion towards God. Transhumanistic technology promises a future of escaping death by manipulating the genetics of a human being with artificial intelligence. This is the same lie that the devil told Eve in the Garden of Eden, promising that she wouldn't die and that she would be like God. Genesis 1:27 says human beings are made in the image of God. So the agenda of the devil is to slowly strip away the image of God here on earth and replace it with his created technology.
I think that's something else I'm just not down for. I think I'll be just fine with all the natural functions that God gave me. I don't need any brain implants. I don't need any extra enhancements. I'm good. But if you'd be down for that, let me know in the comments.
Believe it or not, but these two islands, which are only about 3 miles apart, yet have an astonishing 20-hour time difference. Let me explain. You probably know that there's a maritime border shared by the US and Russia, running between two specific islands known as the Diomede Islands. The larger island is under Russian control, while the smaller one is American territory. Interestingly, the international date line also slices through these islands. This places Big Diomede Island a whole 20 hours ahead of Little Diomede, despite them being a mere 3 miles apart. In winter, the waters around these islands freeze, forming an ice bridge that connects the two nations. Crossing this bridge, you could find yourself just a step away from a completely different day. It's an almost magical experience. The closest thing we have for time traveling, I guess.
But first, after all these years, the Reverend Al Sharpton admits he was an FBI informant.
Yes, he says that he was the cat that got the rats, but others say that Sharpton's secret life was not by choice. CBS 2 political reporter Marcia Kramer has the story.
Michelle Obama probably never knew that one of the guests at her recent White House 50th birthday party was an FBI mafia informant who helped bring down members of the Genovese crime family. Reverend Al Sharpton, now a confidant of both the First Lady and the President and of Mayor Bill de Blasio, has his own unique take on his days as the government's confidential informant number 7.
In my own mind, I was not an informant. I was cooperating with investigations.
The revelations threaten to embarrass Sharpton as he kicks off his National Action Network convention this week with de Blasio and President Obama the headliners. But de Blasio, who called...
That's hilarious. I've heard for years that that he was an informant. So, you know, for it to come out now, I'm not too much surprised at this point.
Hello and welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I assume many of you have watched the interview with the President of Russia, Vladimir Putin, and while there are many important takeaways, I will focus on one that has to do with the economics. So, Tucker Carlson asked if the United States dollar that effectively united the world is now going away. And of course, he was referring to the impact that US sanctions that weaponize the global reserve currency have on the role of the dollar, as central banks' demand for it has significantly weakened in favor of bullion. As you may know, historically, the US dollar made up the bulk of central bank reserves, but as the power has shifted, central banks have been getting rid of their reserve dollars and buying gold instead. Collectively, central banks bought more than 1,000 tons of gold for each of the past 2 years, 2023 and the year prior to that. This is an unprecedented pace in modern history. Bloomberg recently reported that the share of US dollar reserves held by central banks fell to a 25-year low of 59%, while holdings in other currencies continue to increase. On the other hand, gold reserves have been increasing. As the data by World Gold Council suggests, net gold purchases from central banks spiked in 2022 and have remained at these elevated levels ever since. The World Gold Council reported that the top 5 buyers of gold in 2023 were China, Poland, a bit of a surprise there, Singapore, Libya, and India. Next, I want to play a small part of the interview where Vladimir Putin answered Tucker's question and discussed the implications of weaponizing US dollar on the US economy. He, of course, added his own opinion, and I think this is a very important evidence that the US dollar role in the world is indeed changing, and we just saw that in Bloomberg's reporting as well as in reports that were published by the World Gold Council. So take a look at this section of the interview. Watch.
Well, let's just give one example, the US dollar, which has kind of united the world in a lot of ways, maybe not to your advantage, but certainly to ours. Is that going away as the reserve currency, the universally accepted currency? How have sanctions, do you think, changed the dollar's place in the world?
You know, to use the dollar as a tool of foreign policy struggle is one of the biggest strategic mistakes made by the US political leadership. The dollar is the cornerstone of the United States power. I think everyone understands very well that no matter how many dollars are printed, they are quickly dispersed all over the world. Inflation in the United States is minimal. It's about 3 or 3.4%, which is, I think, totally acceptable for the US. But they won't stop printing. What does the debt of $33 trillion tell us about? It is about the emission. Nevertheless, it is the main weapon used by the United States to preserve its power across the world. As soon as the political leadership decided to use the US dollar as a tool of political struggle, a blow was dealt to this American power. I would not like to use any strong language, but it is a stupid thing to do and a grave mistake. Look at what is going on in the world. Even the United States allies are now downsizing their dollar reserves. Seeing this, everyone starts looking for ways to protect themselves. But the fact that the United States applies restrictive measures to certain countries, such as placing restrictions on transactions, freezing assets, etc., causes grave concern and sends a signal to the whole world. What did we have here? Until 2022, about 80% of Russian foreign trade transactions were made in US dollars and euros. US dollars accounted for approximately 50% of our transactions with third countries, while currently it is down to 13%. It wasn't us who banned the use of the US dollar. We had no such intention. It was decision of the United States to restrict our transactions in US dollars. I think it is complete foolishness from the point of view of the interests of the United States itself and its taxpayers, as it damages the US economy, undermines the power of the United States across the world. By the way, our transactions in yuan accounted for about 3%. Today, 34% of our transactions are made in rubles and about as much, a little over 34% in yuan. Why did the United States do this? My only guess is self-conceit. They probably thought it would lead to full collapse, but nothing collapsed. Moreover, other countries, including oil producers, are thinking of and already accepting payments for oil in yuan. Do you even realize what is going on or not? Does anyone in the United States realize this? What are you doing? You are cutting yourself off. All experts say this. Ask any intelligent and thinking person in the United States what the dollar means for the US.
But
you're killing it with your own hands.
I think that's a fair assessment.
In an article published several months ago in December, Bloomberg emphasized that it is because of the strength and the role of the US dollar that the United States, as a country, enjoys being able to have large budget deficits and keep the money printer on. A strong dollar supports American businesses and consumers. And once the dollar weakens, all of these benefits that we have grown accustomed to enjoy will start to disappear as well. Bloomberg writes, "The dollar supremacy has helped the US keep a lid on funding costs and run budget deficits as trading partners put their dollars in US government bonds. It also supports American companies because the widespread use of dollars in global trade, such as for oil and commodities, often makes it cheaper for US multinationals to borrow." So Bloomberg echoed the words of Vladimir Putin and pointed out what many Americans either choose to ignore or have very little understanding of. Who's to blame for the decline of the US dollar? The answer, of course, is very simple. We should be blaming failed foreign economic policy and the leaders who vote against the best interest of the American people. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to leave a comment below and let me know if you think that the United States dollar will manage to retain its global reserve currency status and at what cost. I would love to hear from you. Thank you for your support. Make sure that you are subscribed on Rumble and YouTube. Like the video and leave me a comment, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Bye for now.
You do not mess with a bodybuilder and his eggs.
This shrinkflation stuff is getting out of control.
This is just another example of why it is so expensive to be an adult in 2024.
Make it make sense. This shrinkflation stuff is getting out of control, okay? If there's one thing in this world that I know, it's what a goddamn Big Mac looks like. Are you kidding me? Let's look at the bun to meat ratio. And it's just not a one-off problem. It's on the bottom one too. That is despicable.
This is officially a call to arms. I can't do this anymore.
I'm in the McDonald's parking lot and I have to vent because I don't know when this happened. I'm gonna Google it when I'm done. Drove all the way over here. Kids are at school. I'm gonna go thrift shopping. Let me go get myself a little breakfast. Let me go get myself a large, delicious Coke for $1. They're not $1 anymore. This is what you get for $1. A small. When did they take it away? And hash browns? Hash browns are $3.09 unless you have the app and you want to waste your code and get them for $1. What the fuck? I'm 36 years old. I have been dedicated to McDonald's my entire life. And you're going to take away my $1 large Coke? You know how many moms drive all the way over here just to get a large, big-ass Coke, Diet Coke, Sprite for $1 and now it's gone? Quit playing, McDonald's. You're tripping. You better bring back the Halloween buckets if this is what you're going to do.
Okay, a little bit of a shock. They told me this is now $1.10, right? I remember when they used to be 30 cents, right? But apparently the chocolate one is an extra 30 cents on top of the normal 80 cents. So this thing is now $1.10. What do you guys think about that?
Y'all better listen up, because I almost exploded in Walmart. When I saw the price of eggs, I got so mad, I couldn't control myself. It was $6.22 for 18-pack last time I was there. Now it's like $7.80. They just increase the prices every single week. I was so mad until I noticed that the 12-pack of eggs was actually cheaper. Thankfully, because I was about ready to tear up Walmart. You have no idea. You do not mess with a bodybuilder and his eggs. You do not mess with that. Not even funny. Not even funny.
Good morning and welcome to another vent story time. So I get up, check my emails, chill, cute, and casual. Guess whose rent is going up for the second time this year? This bitch. It went up the first time in June, as in 2 months ago. So this year total, it went from $1,200, so $1,250, to $1,800. Gagged again! And the kicker of this whole situation is, I need to give a 60-day notice to leave this place, otherwise you get a fee if you break the lease, right? And they sent this notice 70 days before the rent increases. So I've got 10 days to figure out whether I'm going to stay or sign up more for $1,800 a goddamn month, move out of state, which I've been thinking about doing in spring anyways, but now I'm rushed, or get a roomie or move somewhere in Fargo, which I don't want to do because my whole moving thing was going to be for out of state. Thank you for coming to my event. I love life. I love it.
I just want to know if you are also watching the things that you used to subconsciously classify in your head as around $5 become around $10. I think context is important. So basically anything that's between $3.50 until $6.49 in my head, I think is around $5 in terms of what comes out of my bank account. And anything from $6.50 to $13 is like around $10. For example, a latte in my head has always been around $5, but in reality, it used to be like $6.20 and now it's like $7.80. So it's actually reached the around $10 threshold. Or like a birthday card in my head used to be around $5, like $3 to maybe $6. But now birthday cards are like $12, maybe sometimes even $16 for a real nice one from Papyrus or whatever you want to call it. That's like not even the $10 threshold, that's like the $20 threshold. Anyways, the moral of the story is that my brain has not caught up with the fact that things I used to think were only $5 coming out of my bank account is now like $10 coming out of my bank account. Let me know if you're also having the same problem.
So obviously inflation is inflationing right now, and I just can't believe what I saw. I am not somebody to know much about cars. I just know I like being in nice ones. That's about it. So I went to go get a oil change. I lied. I went to go get a car wash. I just need an oil change. And typically car washes are $5 to max $7.99, $6.99, you know what I mean? Nope, not over here. Not over here. It was a full $10 for a basic wash. I remember the days when I would get quarters to wash my car. $2 minimum, max, barely $2.50, $3, and I'm good. Now, obviously, these are the ones that, you do yourself, but, those aren't really around me right now. But the way I just couldn't believe $10 for a basic car wash. I know some people that would just be like, I ain't doing that.
I'm really starting to get annoyed with this cost of living shit. And this is another rant. And as I said, I don't usually do these often, but I feel like they're going to start becoming a weekly, if not a daily experience. I got an email today that said from Optus that my bill was going up $4 to mitigate the cost of living. I'm sorry, my phone bill is going up $4? How exactly are you impacted by the cost of living? Because we sure as shit know that your staff aren't.
Hey guys, it's Misha and welcome back to my channel. So today we're going to be talking about Tucker Carlson's interview with Putin. As you probably saw, the liberal media especially was going crazy. People were calling him a traitor all before even seeing the interview. Just putting that out there. So today I want to talk about that reaction, the threats that were made to Tucker Carlson for conducting the interview, and then also I'm going to talk about the interview itself. But before we start, please make sure you are subscribed and have hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of my videos. Since this is a proxy war that we're involved in, perhaps we should hear from Putin. Now, apparently this journalism should not be allowed.
Here's why we're doing it. First, because it's our job. We're in journalism. Our duty is to inform people. 2 years into a war that's reshaping the entire world, most Americans are not informed. They have no real idea what's happening in this region, here in Russia or 600 miles away in Ukraine. But they should know. They're paying for much of it.
And then you take a look at the interviews with Zelensky. All hail the mighty Zelensky. We love you, Zelensky. We all look up to you. You can do no wrong. How many more billions of dollars do you need?
They are fawning pep sessions.
Just listen to the very difficult questions that this woman asks Zelensky.
What music do you like?
Your people are dying. Your country is at war. This woman thinks, okay, I'm gonna ask the serious questions here. What music do you like? Now, spoiler alert, with Tucker Carlson's interview, he did not sit down with Putin and say, hey, Vlad, can I call you Vlad? Do you prefer waffles or pancakes? What's your favorite color? No. He asked him about the war. He asked him some very serious questions, and I will talk about it. But calling someone like Tucker Carlson a propagandist, a Putin puppet for wanting to show the public an unedited version of this interview to just hear what Putin has to say. You don't have to like Putin. You don't have to trust Putin. You could hate the guy. You can support Ukraine 100%. That is your right. And it was obvious that the liberal media was very disappointed that Tucker wasn't like thrown out of a window or jailed or killed by Putin, whatever they were speculating might happen. No. It makes you wonder why the establishment media is so afraid of us hearing what Putin has to say from hearing a different perspective because they need the taxpayers' money to keep funding this war. And how can you do that without bloodthirsty rhetoric? How can you do that without some good old warmongering? Lindsey Graham comes to mind. I can remember that clip of him sitting down with Zelensky.
Very important. The best money we've ever spent. This is 457th day of a war that was supposed to last 3 days. Yeah. Free or die.
Now you are free.
Yes.
And we will be.
And the Russians are dying.
This is the best money we've ever spent. They all gotta die. And I can't. My excitement because the Russians are dying. Like, calm down. Is this a person that wants peace? So we don't have to see innocent people on both sides dying? There are a lot of bloodthirsty people. I think those are the people benefiting from this because they want to see destruction. And of course, the military-industrial complex. However, there were others who did try to interview Putin and he declined. Probably did not trust something like CNN to conduct the interview. A lot of people here in the West seem to think that we're immune to propaganda. No. It's not just countries like Russia or, other countries that have propaganda. We have plenty of it here. Or saying we're protecting democracy in Ukraine, which even having those two words in the same sentence is insane. But people are slowly starting to open their eyes and realize, hey, maybe we shouldn't keep funding the war. Maybe this is just leading to more deaths and it's not actually helping us find a peaceful solution. Maybe we should spare the lives of innocent Ukrainians. Maybe when Putin is saying they're gonna fight till the end, that's not a good sign. Or Zelensky saying he will fight to the last Ukrainian and we just keep sending money when we have the migrant crisis at the border. For example, we have this bill that was proposed. It was called the border bill, right? And you think, oh, okay, our border. Thankfully, finally, right? It had $60 billion that they wanted to send to Ukraine. The border bill. When we focus more on Ukraine's border than our own border, no one thinks that's a problem. So let's talk about the actual interview, right? So Putin started off with quite a lengthy history lesson. He's obviously very knowledgeable. He said this would be like 30 seconds. It was not 30 seconds, it was like 30 minutes or something. A few funny memes came from that. He talks about how he finds Ukrainians and Russians the same people pretty much, although he says that yes, they do have a right to be separate, that's fine, but he says they can't do that under the basis of Nazi ideology when he was talking about denazification of Ukraine.
Ukrainians are part of the one Russian people. They say, no, we are a separate people. Okay, fine. If they consider themselves a separate people, they have the right to do so, but not on the basis of Nazism, the Nazi ideology.
And what Putin brought up was what happened in the Canadian Parliament, where they invited Zelensky and a 90-something-year-old Nazi. Right, and he was saying, yeah, we fought against the Russians. Well, yeah, who was fighting against the Russians?
To say Hitler has been dead for so many years, 80 years. But his example lives on. People who exterminated Jews, Russians, and Poles are alive. And the president, the current president of today's Ukraine, applauds him in the Canadian Parliament, gives a standing ovation. Can we say that we have completely uprooted this ideology if what we see is happening today? That is what denazification is in our understanding. We have to get rid of those people who maintain this concept and support this practice.
He's a Ukrainian hero, a Canadian hero, and we thank him for all his service.
There have been many opportunities to negotiate. He talked about Boris Johnson when they had a peace deal, but Boris Johnson came over and told Ukraine, hey, no, don't sign the deal.
We never agreed to NATO's